So here's how I feel about cultural appropriation in the literary sense. I think we all understand cultural appropriation when we see it in the larger cultural landscape. Somebody who is taking on the attributes, the persona, the habits, the language of an ethnicity, of a culture, of a religion, of a race that is not theirs. And most of the time when we see that, we see it either in a negative light or we receive it in a negative light. It's depicted culturally as this is not the thing to do. There was a very famous influencer who appeared at Coachella in Native American garb, rightfully causing outrage among indigenous people, understandably so. It felt disrespectful. So our initial reaction to when we see any type of appropriation of another culture is to not be in favor of it. So let's bring that into the literary landscape. I'm an author of historical fiction. I have stepped into the shoes of characters who are from a different time than me, who are from a different country than me, and who have been different races than me. And so when I think about cultural appropriation in the literary landscape, the first and foremost thing I think of to avoid the appropriation of a culture in a negative way is respect, dignity, and in the famous words of a writer named Catherine Boo, who wrote an absolutely beautiful nonfiction assessment of poverty in India called Behind the Beautiful Forever, earn the fact. You cannot rely upon cultural stereotypes or a surface understanding of how a particular culture or a person within a particular culture behaves, how they relate to others, how they relate to the world around them, how they would speak, how they would dress, what their mannerisms would be. Don't rely on what you've seen on television or in film or have maybe read in a novel by somebody else. Do the research, understand the time frame, have a deep understanding of the culture, have a deep understanding of how people speak. Be very careful with using idiom to try to convey slang. Keep in mind, you are not of the culture, so if you are stepping into another character who you have nothing to do with, but you want to depict their story, in my case, I have that desire because of empathy. I want to understand. I want to depict in a respectful way. But I'm going to do a lot of research. I'm going to live in those facts until I feel comfortable with them as if I am living in that culture, in that time frame. Then it's time to write. And when I depict a culture, it won't be in a shallow way or one that relies on stereotype. It's going to be based upon an understanding, and it's going to be dignified. That's the way to avoid cultural appropriation from your side of the street, from the writer's side. There may be readers who take your depiction of a culture and say, well, what right do you have to depict something that doesn't belong to you? And I think the appropriate answer to that, it was a question I got when I was doing a book tour for my second novel, The Night Language, is I have no right. I have no right to depict another culture. What I have is empathy, a curiosity, a desire to learn and to understand and to share a story that maybe hasn't been shared to now. And I hope I did it well.
Want to finally write your book? Grab the right formula, 12 weeks from concept to completion, and make your writing dreams a reality.